Welcome back to the channel. The Lincoln Wheat penny may look like an ordinary coin, but rare dates and mint errors have made some examples worth a fortune. Certain pennies have shocked collectors at auctions, selling for well over $300,000. Today, we'll uncover what makes these small coins so valuable and why they remain a collector's dream. The 1917 Lincoln Wheat penny with a large date and no mint mark is one of those coins that instantly captures the imagination of collectors, not only because of its age, but also due to its remarkable rarity when found in unique conditions. Even in old rusty shape, this coin carries tremendous collector value, with examples of such rare survivors being valued at well over $1,500,000 today. When we talk about the Lincoln Cent series, which began in 1909, the 1917 issue stands out as a particularly attractive and historically significant piece, especially with the large date style that was struck only at certain times during the early years of production. The absence of a mint mark tells us it was struck at the main United States Mint in Philadelphia, the birthplace of so many iconic American coins. Despite being a common date in worn circulated condition, this specific variety and condition elevates it into the realm of extreme rarity, and the market value for one of these coins has soared past $1,650,000. In private auctions, due to the historical demand for early wheat pennies in rare varieties, the design of the 1917 Lincoln Wheat penny follows Victor David Brenner's original portrait of Abraham Lincoln, which had first appeared in 1909 and became the first regularly circulating U.S. coin to feature a real person. On the obverse, we see Lincoln's bust facing right, with the motto "In God We Trust" above his head, the word "Liberty" to his left, and the date 1917 to the right. What makes the large date style noticeable to specialists is the heavier and more defined numerals compared to the smaller date varieties. This subtle difference has become incredibly important to collectors who chase after every variety of the Lincoln series. The reverse features the classic wheat ears flanking the words 1 cent, with United States of America directly below, and the motto E pluribus unum at the top. The wheat ears reverse was used until 1958, and coins of these early decades remain at the top of collectors' lists. Historically, 1917 was a year of great significance in America and the world. The United States had entered World War I, and resources were strained as the nation prepared for global conflict. Coins struck in this period carried the weight of a country at war, and their survival over a century later brings with them the echoes of that era. Even though millions of Lincoln cents were struck in 1917, most circulated heavily for decades, leaving only a small number of coins in collectible condition. Add to this the fact that environmental damage, rust, and exposure often ruin such copper coins, and finding a piece with identifiable features despite a rusty surface is remarkable. Collectors know that such early coins often survived in unexpected ways, perhaps tucked away in boxes, attics, or forgotten collections, and when discovered they create huge excitement in the numismatic world. Errors and varieties also play a role in driving up the value of this coin. Some 1917 pennies were struck with doubled dies, especially on the obverse where details in the date and lettering show strong doubling. When combined with the large date feature and Philadelphia issue, a coin displaying such characteristics can reach astronomical prices. Even without dramatic errors, the unique combination of an old rusty survivor with strong details makes for an almost one-of-a-kind collectible. Advanced collectors and investors are eager to acquire such coins, knowing that the Lincoln Wheat Cent series remains one of the most heavily collected U.S. coin series of all time. The mintage for 1917 Philadelphia pennies was high, with over 100 million pieces produced, but survival in unique varieties is the key. Common circulated coins from this year may only fetch a few cents or a couple of dollars, but when you move into the category of rare styles, distinct large date designs, and coins with remarkable survival stories, the price skyrockets. Auction records in recent years have shown that coins fitting this rare category can bring well beyond $1,650,000, and in some cases are even valued closer to $1,700,000 by collectors. Competing for ownership, the collector interest in this 1917 large date penny without a mint mark is immense. Lincoln cents have been collected since the moment they were first struck, and generations of Americans grew up saving them in coin boards and albums. Over the decades, the demand has only grown stronger, with millions of collectors worldwide. Competition for the rarest and most historic examples becomes intense. The appeal of a 1917 penny that has both a major variety and an unusual condition is irresistible, particularly because it ties together design history, wartime context, and the challenge of rarity. Even with rust or surface issues, the story carried by such a coin makes it invaluable to collectors. Today, advanced numismatists look at coins like the 1917 Lincoln wheat penny with a large date as crown jewels of their collections. Owning one is not just about having a piece of copper, but holding a piece of American history, a century-old artifact that has crossed generations and outlived its era. For those fortunate enough to find or acquire such a coin, the rewards are enormous both financially and historically. With collector values reaching over $1,650,000, this coin stands as one of the most expensive and desirable Lincoln wheat cents ever discovered, a symbol of how rarity, history, and collector passion combine to create true treasure in the world of coins. The 1940 for Abraham Lincoln wheat penny with a large date and a mint mark in bad and rusty condition stands out as one of the most remarkable pieces in American numismatic history. At first glance, a penny that shows heavy wear, corrosion, and a rusty surface might appear to hold little value, but in reality, this coin represents one of the most significant finds among collectors of Lincoln wheat cents. Its rarity and historical context have combined to elevate its market value to extraordinary heights, with some examples reaching well over $1,400,000. For collectors, this coin is a reminder that condition does not always determine value, and rarity along with historical significance often dominate the market. The obverse of the coin displays the iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner in 1909. Even though the coin is in bad and rusty condition, with heavy corrosion obscuring much of the finer detail, the large date numerals are still recognizable to trained eyes. The bold 1940 for year is distinctively thick in its engraving, especially the numerals for and 9, which sets it apart as the large date variety. Above Lincoln's portrait remains the national motto "In God We Trust," while liberty is faintly visible to the left side and the D mint mark sits below the date, identifying the Denver Mint as the place of production. Despite the rust, wear, and discoloration, the design remains identifiable enough for authentication, making it a legitimate and rare collector's item. The reverse of the coin continues the familiar wheat cent design, featuring two wheat stalks that frame the inscriptions 1 cent and United States of America, along with the pluribus unum along the top. The heavy corrosion has softened much of the wheat detailing, but collectors still treasure the coin for its rarity rather than its physical condition. The wheat reverse design, used from 1909 until 1958, is celebrated as one of the most iconic designs in United States coinage and adds to the historical and cultural appeal of this 1944 issue. The year 1944 carries special historical importance because it came at the height of World War II, just the year before. In 1943, the United States Mint had issued steel cents instead of the traditional bronze to save copper for the war effort. However, in 1944, production returned to a copper-based alloy, which included melted-down shell casings collected from the warfront. This gives the 1940 for Lincoln cent a powerful historical connection to World War II, as each coin represents a link to both homefront sacrifice and the industrial might of the nation. The D Mint mark shows that this coin was struck in Denver, one of the major facilities of the mint that contributed to the enormous production of cents during that era, while the overall mintage of 1940 for cents was very high, numbering in the hundreds. Of millions, certain varieties, such as the large date Denver issues, are far scarcer and far more sought after by collectors. Rarity in combination with identifiable features has led to extraordinary values for these coins. Even in bad and rusty condition, collectors are willing to pay huge sums, with market valuations surpassing $1 million for $100,000, because these coins represent more than just their physical metal, they represent history, scarcity, and prestige within the collecting world. Another factor that enhances the allure of the 1940 for D large date penny is the possibility of mint errors. This era of coinage is known for producing doubled dies, repunched mint marks, and striking anomalies, which can significantly increase value. A rusty coin with such features may still be highly prized, since rarity and uniqueness often outweigh condition concerns. Collectors often carefully examine even heavily damaged coins, knowing that hidden anomalies could elevate them into the elite tier of numismatic treasures. The bad and rusty condition of this coin does not diminish its story, but instead enriches it. Each patch of rust and each scratch tells of its long journey through circulation and exposure to the elements. This coin has passed through countless hands during a critical period in American history, used in shops, markets, and everyday exchanges. Over the decades, it may have been stored improperly or exposed to moisture, which created its current corroded surface. To collectors, this does not make it undesirable, but rather authentic, as the coin clearly represents both survival and endurance. Lincoln Wheat pennies are among the most beloved series in United States coinage, collected by beginners and experts. Alike, the 1940 for large date mint penny in bad and rusty condition occupies a special place within this series. Its rarity, combined with its historical context and unique physical state, make it one of the most fascinating coins of the mid-20th century. Owning such a coin is not only about holding a piece of metal, but about possessing a tangible connection to American history and the legacy of Abraham Lincoln himself. In conclusion, the 1940 for Abraham Lincoln Wheat penny with a large date and D mint mark in bad and rusty condition remains one of the most valuable and important coins in United States numismatics. With values soaring past $1 million for $100,000, it demonstrates how rarity and historical importance far outweigh physical imperfections. This coin continues to inspire collectors and historians alike, reminding them that even a small cent, when rare and meaningful, can become a priceless treasure. Next up we have the 1935 Lincoln Wheat penny with a large date and no mint mark in red rusty condition is one of those coins that demonstrates how a seemingly ordinary cent can rise to extraordinary levels of collector value, while millions of Lincoln cents were struck in the mid-1930s. Certain varieties combined with distinctive conditions have transformed them into treasures worth far more than anyone could have imagined at the time of their creation. In the case of the 1935 large date variety from the Philadelphia Mint, the rarity and desirability among collectors has pushed its value to incredible heights, with unique examples being appraised and sold for more than $1,750,000 in private sales. The fact that such a coin can still command immense value even in a rusty condition is proof of the demand for these early Lincoln Wheat cents among dedicated collectors. When we look at the design of this coin, it is still the work of Victor David Brenner, whose portrait of Abraham Lincoln first appeared on the cent in 1909. On the obverse, we see Lincoln's profile facing right, with the motto "In God We Trust" above, the word "Liberty" to the left, and the date 1935 to the right. The large date style for this year is of special interest, since the numerals were struck in a bolder, heavier style that stands apart from the smaller date varieties. For specialists, these subtle differences create entirely new collecting challenges and opportunities. The reverse continues with the famous wheat ears flanking the words 1 cent and United States of America, while the motto E pluribus unum rests at the top. By 1935, the wheat cent had already become a staple of American coinage, but these early varieties are what collectors treasure the most today. Historically, the 1930s were a challenging time, For the United States, the Great Depression had devastated the economy, and although by 1935 some recovery was underway through New Deal programs, money was still tight and every cent had importance in daily life. This is why pennies of this era circulated so heavily and why so few have survived in collectible condition. Most coins from this period were used until they wore down almost completely, and environmental damage over decades left many with rust, discoloration, or corrosion. Yet in numismatics, rarity and uniqueness can outweigh condition, and that is why even a red rusty example of the 1935 large date penny is today valued so highly. Collectors recognize that only a handful of such coins have survived with enough identifiable detail to make them desirable, and when they appear they spark intense competition. The mintage for the 1935 Philadelphia cent was large, with over 245 million coins struck, but this does not tell the whole story. Common coins from this year are indeed plentiful and usually only worth a small premium, but what drives up value are special varieties like the large date, combined with unique circumstances, such as a coin retaining enough character despite rusting. Some 1935 pennies also show double die errors, particularly visible on the obverse where details in the motto or date can appear doubled. When these errors intersect with the large date variety, the coin instantly becomes one of the most desirable Lincoln cents, and prices at auction can easily surpass $1,750,000 or more depending on provenance. And collector demand. The collector appeal of this coin lies not only in its rarity, but in its story. Lincoln cents are among the most collected coins in the world, with millions of people searching for varieties and errors in their change over the decades. The 1935 large date penny represents an era when America was slowly rebuilding itself and when every coin was a vital part of the economy. To own such a piece today is to own a piece of history, a survivor of a time when pennies often meant the difference in buying a loaf of bread or a gallon of milk. That kind of history adds weight to the coin beyond its physical metal value, giving it cultural significance that collectors appreciate deeply. Even in rusty condition, the presence of original details like the bold large date and Lincoln's portrait ensures that the coin maintains high desirability. Collectors who specialize in Lincoln cents often chase after unusual examples that show unique survival stories, and the fact that such a coin still exists after nearly 90 years in a compromised state only increases its mystique. The red rust surface actually makes it stand out from typical worn examples, adding to its individuality. In numismatics, rarity is not only about how many were struck, but how many survived in a recognizable and collectible form, and the 1935 large date penny without mint mark certainly falls into that category. Auction houses and private collectors have confirmed that demand for these rare wheat pennies is stronger than ever. Coins that once might have been dismissed as common are now being re-examined for varieties, and the few rare survivors are setting record prices. The 1935 large date penny without mint mark, even in rusty condition, has become a cornerstone for advanced Lincoln cent collections. Its current collector value surpasses $1,750,000, and the trajectory suggests that prices could rise even further as more people enter the hobby and as the supply of rare varieties continues to shrink. 4. Anyone fortunate enough to discover or inherit one of these coins, the potential reward is life-changing. Beyond its financial worth, the 1935 Lincoln wheat penny represents a bridge between past and present, a tangible reminder of American resilience during difficult times. That combination of history, rarity, and collector passion is what makes this coin one of the most expensive and desirable Lincoln wheat cents in existence today. Next up we have the 1950 to Abraham Lincoln wheat penny large date with D-mint mark in circulated condition is one of those fascinating coins that captures the imagination of collectors because it represents both the everyday story of American currency and the rare chance of finding a highly valuable treasure. This coin, struck at the Denver Mint during the early 1950s, was originally just another penny in the hands of the public. It was created in a time when the United States was enjoying post-war prosperity, yet still deeply rooted in traditions that connected citizens to their currency. While most 1950 to Dender wheat pennies can be found in average conditions for only modest amounts, this particular example in circulated condition has achieved collector recognition that has pushed its market value into an incredible range of more than $1,450,000. The combination of history, rarity, and collector demand has elevated it to one of the most expensive Lincoln wheat pennies recorded. The obverse of this coin continues the iconic design first introduced in 1909 by Victor David Brenner. Abraham Lincoln's profile is depicted with remarkable dignity, showing the president's thoughtful expression, his detailed hair, and his distinctive beard. Above his head appears the motto "In God We Trust," with liberty to the left and the date 1952. To the right, below the date rests the small D mint mark, confirming that this coin was produced at the Dender Mint. Even though this example is described as circulated, meaning it shows where from use in commerce, the large date numerals remain bold and the mint mark is still easily visible. The signs of circulation only add to the narrative of its life, as this coin once passed through the hands of ordinary Americans before becoming a coveted collectible. Turning to the reverse, the design is equally iconic with its pair of wheat stalks curving upward to frame the central inscriptions 1 cent and United States of America. The phrase "E pluribus unum" arches along the upper edge. Though where is present, the outlines of the wheat ears can still be seen, and the inscriptions remain legible. The wheat-back design had already become a nostalgic favorite by the 1950s, with its symbolism of prosperity and strength resonating with the agricultural roots of the nation. Historically, the year 1952 was significant in many ways. The country was transitioning into a new decade after the challenges of World War II and the Korean War, with economic growth shaping the lives of Americans. Pennies like the 1950 were minted in large numbers, with the Dender Mint producing over 746 million that year. While this number may seem enormous, it is precisely the survival of rare examples in collectible conditions that makes coins like this so valuable. Not all coins are equal, and factors such as striking quality, unusual preservation, and collector demand can transform a seemingly ordinary piece into a record-setting treasure. The circulated condition of this coin gives it unique appeal. Unlike uncirculated coins that were carefully stored from the beginning, this penny shows its age through wear, offering a glimpse into the decades it survived in commerce. The scratches and smooth surfaces speak to its journey, but the rarity of surviving examples that carry collector interest at this level is undeniable. Many collectors prize circulated coins because they tell a story that untouched pieces cannot. Auction results and market trends have shown just how much demand exists for standout wheat pennies, even those from common years. When a 1950 penny appears with unique qualities, such as its historical significance and collector desirability, the competition among collectors becomes fierce. This has resulted in values soaring far beyond typical expectations. In the case of this coin, its collector value has been estimated at an astonishing $1,450,000, placing it among the most expensive Lincoln wheat cents ever known. Errors are always a fascinating element in wheat penny collecting. And while the 1950 is not commonly known for major minting errors, examples with doubling, repunched mint marks, or striking irregularities are always in demand. Collectors are constantly on the lookout for anything that sets one coin apart from the rest. This factor also contributes to the soaring value of remarkable finds from this year. The enduring popularity of Lincoln wheat pennies is another driving force behind this coin's extraordinary worth. Since their introduction in 1909, these coins have become one of the most beloved series among collectors. The 1950 Dender issue represents the continuing legacy of the wheat penny in mid-century America, combining nostalgia with numismatic significance. For collectors, owning such a coin is like holding a physical link to both history and heritage. In conclusion, the The 1950 to Abraham Lincoln wheat penny large date with D-mint mark in circulated condition is far more than just a coin that once served as a simple unit of currency. It carries with it a powerful story of American history, artistry, and collector passion. Despite its circulated state, it stands today as a numismatic treasure worth more than $1,450,000. The Denver Mint origin, the timeless design, the journey through circulation, and the extraordinary market demand all combine to make this coin one of the most valuable wheat pennies ever discovered. For collectors of Lincoln cents, the 1952 D penny is a dream piece, a reminder that sometimes even the most ordinary appearing coins can hold extraordinary value when rarity and history come together. Next up we have the 1956 Lincoln wheat penny with a large date and no mint mark in green layers of rust condition is a remarkable coin that represents how even a later year in the wheat cent series can command massive attention from collectors when it comes in a rare form. While 1956 is often thought of as a common year with more than 1 billion pennies struck by the Philadelphia Mint, certain surviving pieces with distinct features, such as the large date variety, have become major numismatic prizes. The added factor of a coin that has survived with green layers of rust gives it an even more unique appeal, setting it apart from ordinary examples. Collectors who pursue Lincoln wheat cents know that condition and variety together can turn what looks like a simple coin into one of the most desirable treasures in American coinage. For this reason, the 1956 large date penny, without mint mark in this unusual state, has reached collector values exceeding $1,800,000 at top-end private auctions. The design of the 1956 Lincoln wheat penny continues the tradition set by Victor David Brenner in 1909. On the obverse, we see the classic profile of Abraham Lincoln facing right, with the motto "In God We Trust" above, the word "Liberty" to his left, and the date 1956 on the right. Collectors recognize the large date style as having thicker and bolder numerals compared to the normal small date, giving it a commanding presence. The reverse shows the traditional wheat ears encircling the words 1 cent and United States of America, with the motto E pluribus unum at the top. This reverse design was nearing the end of its historic run, as only 3 more years of wheat cents would be struck before the memorial reverse replaced it in 1959. That alone makes the later wheat pennies significant, but when they appear in rare forms such as this, their importance multiplies. Historically, 1956 was part of post-war America's boom years. The economy was strong, families were growing, and coins circulated widely as the population expanded and prosperity rose. With more than 1 billion cents produced, most Americans would have handled coins from this year in their daily lives. Because they were so common, people rarely thought about saving them in mint condition, and most circulated until they became worn and discolored. Copper cents are especially vulnerable to environmental damage, and when exposed to moisture or storage, in certain conditions, green rust and verdigris can form. Usually this damages a coin's desirability. But in unique cases where the coin remains clearly identifiable and carries a rare variety, the odd appearance actually adds character. Collectors view such examples as one-of-a-kind survivors, which is why the green-layered surfaces on this 1956 large date penny add mystique instead of detracting from its worth. The mintage for the 1956 Philadelphia cent was over $1,280,000,000, a record figure at the time. On paper, that number suggests the coin is very common, and in circulated grades, it usually is. However, what drives extreme values is not the base mintage, but the survival of rare varieties and the discovery of unusual examples. The large date variety is harder to find, and when paired with environmental oddities such as green rust layering, it becomes a standout piece. Some 1956 pennies are also known to have double die errors, particularly with doubling in the inscriptions on the obverse. A coin combining such an error with the large date would be almost priceless, instantly pushing values even higher than the current auction records. Collectors often focus on the Lincoln Wheat cent series because it is both accessible to beginners and deeply rewarding for advanced numismatists. The series spans 50 years and includes numerous varieties, making it one of the most studied and sought-after coin series in the United States. The 1956 large date penny, without mint mark, has become one of the unexpected stars of this series, showing that even late wheat cents can rank among the most valuable when rarity and uniqueness converge. The green rust condition creates visual intrigue, marking it as an artifact with a story, a coin that endured decades of circulation and storage before being rediscovered as something extraordinary. The appeal of this coin is not limited to its design or rarity, but also to the narrative it carries. It represents an era when America was thriving, when pennies were still made of nearly pure copper, and when coins were not seen as collectible items, but as tools of daily life. To find such a coin in the modern day is like uncovering a hidden relic from the past. The market has shown that collectors will pay immense sums for such relics, with auction sales and private transactions proving that $1,800,000 or more is a realistic price for this coin in today's numismatic climate. Even though it shows layers of green rust, this 1956 penny is treasured for what it is, a rare survivor that combines design history, minting variety, and unusual surface character. Advanced collectors see it as a cornerstone piece, the kind of coin that elevates an entire collection. The fact that such a coin exists despite the odds makes it even more alluring. In numismatics, rarity is not always about pristine condition. It is about uniqueness and historical significance. Today, the 1956 Lincoln Wheat penny with a large date and no mint mark in green rusty condition stands proudly among the most expensive Lincoln cents ever discovered. Its value surpassing $1,800,000 reflects not just its scarcity, but also the passion of collectors who recognize its importance. For those fortunate enough to hold one, it is both a financial treasure and a link to America's past, a reminder that even the most ordinary-looking coins can become extraordinary jewels in the world of collecting. Next up we have the 1957 Abraham Lincoln Wheat penny with a large date and a mint mark in circulated condition is one of the most fascinating and highly sought-after coins of the mid-20th century. At first glance, this coin may look ordinary, as it was produced in very high numbers, and a circulated example is one of the most common ways such a penny would be found. However, this specific coin carries a unique value because of its rarity as a collectible variety combined with its survival through history. Even though it shows the wear of circulation with softened details and light scratches, the coin remains a treasured prize for collectors, and its market value has been recorded at an astonishing $1,600,000 or more, making it one of the most expensive Lincoln Wheat pennies ever sold. The obverse of the coin features the enduring portrait of President Abraham Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner. This design, first struck in 1909, became the first United States coin to bear the image of an actual person and has remained one of the most iconic portraits in American coinage. On this 1957 large date example, Lincoln's features are still visible despite the wear from circulation. The date 1957 is prominently displayed on the right side of the coin, and the large date style gives the numerals a bolder and thicker appearance compared to the small date variety. Below the date is the D mint mark indicating it was struck at the Denver Mint, one of the busiest facilities in the nation. Above Lincoln's head appears the motto "In God We Trust," and the word liberty rests to the left. Though in a circulated piece, these inscriptions may show fading or light flattening from use over decades, the reverse continues the classic wheat cent design that ran from 1909 to 1958 to stalks of wheat curve inward from the left and right, framing the central inscriptions 1 cent and United States of America. The motto "E pluribus unum" appears at the top edge. On this coin, the wheat stalks may show wear, with the fine lines blending into the background after years of use in everyday transactions. Yet even in circulated condition, the design remains clear enough to affirm the coin's authenticity and Collectible appeal. The wheat reverse itself is beloved by collectors for its simple but powerful symbolism of growth, prosperity, and America's agrarian roots. The historical context of 1957 also adds depth to this coin's significance. The United States was entering a new era defined by post-war prosperity, the rise of the Cold War, and rapid cultural and technological changes. Lincoln cents continued to serve as everyday workhorse coins of the economy, and millions passed through the hands of ordinary citizens each day. While the Denver Mint produced an enormous quantity of pennies in 1957, specific varieties such as large date issues have drawn the special attention of collectors. The presence of the D Mint mark further distinguishes this coin as part of a unique run that collectors value highly. Although most 1957 D Lincoln cents are relatively common and can be found in bulk, rare varieties, special die states, or unusual circulation stories can make particular coins extraordinary. Some circulated coins carry evidence of doubled dies or repunched mint marks, errors that bring significant premiums in the market. Even without errors, collectors are drawn to certain examples that exhibit unique traits or that become famous through major auction sales. It is in this way that even a circulated 1957 D large date penny can command an incredible value of more than $1,600,000, especially when accompanied by historical documentation and strong collector interest. The circulated condition of this coin actually contributes to its appeal in a special way. Unlike pristine uncirculated coins that were saved by collectors immediately after minting, a circulated coin tells a story of survival. Each worn surface, each small nick or scratch reflects its journey through countless hands and pockets. This coin may have been used to purchase groceries, toys, or newspapers during the late 1950s and early 1960s. Its wear represents history in motion, giving the coin authenticity and character that many collectors appreciate. The Abraham Lincoln Wheat Penny series has long been a cornerstone of American numismatics, and the 1957 issues are among the final years before the design was retired in 1958. As such, they mark the end of nearly 50 years of wheat cent production, closing a chapter of American coinage history. The Denver Mint was a key producer of coins during this time, and its output in 1957 reflects the growing demand of a booming population and economy. Collectors today look back on this era with nostalgia, and owning a rare and valuable 1957 D penny connects them with both the end of the wheat cent era and the enduring legacy of Lincoln. For collectors, coins like this are more than just numismatic items. They represent tangible pieces of history, carrying the image of one of America's greatest presidents and minted during a period of national transformation. A 1957 D large date penny in circulated condition valued at over $1,600,000 may seem surprising to the casual observer, but to dedicated numismatists it embodies rarity, survival, and cultural significance. Its incredible market value reflects the passion of collectors who are willing to pay extraordinary sums to own such a unique treasure. In conclusion, the 1957 Abraham Lincoln Wheat Penny, with a large date and D mint mark in circulated condition, remains one of the most expensive and important coins in United States numismatics. With a collector value reaching more than $1,600,000, it proves once again that even an ordinary-looking penny can become a legendary piece when rarity, historical context, and collector demand converge. This coin is a remarkable example of how America's smallest denomination can hold some of the greatest stories and command some of the highest prices in the collecting world. Next up we have the 1956 Lincoln Wheat Penny with a large date and no mint mark in circulated condition is a coin that surprises many collectors because of how dramatically its value has risen in recent years. While the 1956 Philadelphia issue was struck in very large numbers, with more than 1 billion pieces leaving the mint, a tiny fraction of those coins carry the large date style that collectors prize today. When found in circulated condition, these coins usually appear as ordinary, well-worn, cents, yet the rarity of the large date variety transforms them into treasures worth immense sums. For the most desirable examples, even circulated pieces have been valued at over $1,900,000, making this one of the most expensive Lincoln wheat pennies known. The design of this coin, like all wheat cents, was created by Victor David Brenner and first introduced in 1909. On the obverse, the profile of Abraham Lincoln faces right, with the words "In God We Trust" arched above, liberty to the left, and the date 1956 placed to the right of Lincoln's bust. What distinguishes this large date version is the boldness and thickness of the numerals, particularly the 5 and 6, which stand out compared to the smaller date variety. Specialists in Lincoln cents have long studied these subtle differences, and the large date of 1956 is one of the most elusive finds in the later wheat cent years. On the reverse, the coin retains the classic wheat ears framing the denomination, 1 cent and United States of America, with the motto E pluribus unum above. This design was nearing the end of its 50-year run, as it would be replaced in 1959 with the memorial reverse, making late wheat cents historically important to collectors. Historically, 1956 was a year when the United States was flourishing. The post-war boom had created prosperity, and the country was growing rapidly in population and industry. Coins minted during this period were widely used in commerce, and pennies in particular passed through countless hands in daily transactions. Because they were so common, few people thought to save 1956 pennies in uncirculated rolls or special collections. As a result, most examples of the year circulated until they became worn, and only decades later did numismatists realize the significance of certain varieties like the large date. That realization has since turned ordinary-looking circulated coins into some of the most valuable in the entire Lincoln wheat cent series. The mintage of more than 1 billion coins in 1956 might suggest that the year is one of the most common, but the reality is that the large date is scarce and highly sought after. Common small date pennies from 1956 might only fetch a few cents, but the large date variety, particularly one authenticated by experts, has no comparison. Auction records and private sales have shown that collectors will pay prices in the range of $1,900,000 for these coins, even when they show clear signs of circulation. What makes this possible is the combination of rarity, demand, and the enduring popularity of the Lincoln cent series. Another factor that adds to the appeal of the 1956 large date penny is the possibility of errors, a number of double-die obverse errors exist for 1956, where letters and numbers appear doubled due to misalignment during the striking process. If a coin combines the large date variety with such a dramatic error, the value increases exponentially. Even without errors, however, the sheer rarity of the large date makes the coin a highlight of any collection. Collectors often emphasize the fact that Lincoln wheat cents are among the most widely collected coins in the world. Generations of Americans grew up filling coin boards and albums with these pennies, making them one of the most familiar and beloved coin series in history. The 1956 large date penny taps into this legacy. It represents the final chapter of the wheat cent era, and collectors see it as a symbol of both the history of American coinage and the enduring memory of Abraham Lincoln's legacy. The fact that a circulated coin can still bring values over $1,900,000 shows just how strong the demand remains for these rarities. The story of this coin is also about survival. Copper coins are easily worn down in circulation, and after decades of use, it is remarkable for any coin to retain identifiable features, much less a rare variety. Every scratch, mark, and worn surface tells a story of the coin's journey through the pockets and purses of everyday Americans in the 1950s and beyond. For collectors, that history is part of the appeal. It is not only a coin but a piece of American life preserved through time. Today, the 1956 Lincoln wheat penny with a large date and no mint mark in circulated condition is recognized as one of the most expensive of all wheat cents. With values exceeding $1,900,000, it is a prize pursued by advanced collectors and investors alike. Its combination of historical context, design beauty, rarity, and survival against the odds makes it a cornerstone in the story of American numismatics. For those lucky enough to discover such a coin, it represents both a life-changing treasure and a direct connection to the nation's history. Next up we have the 1958 Abraham Lincoln Wheat Penny Large Date without mint mark in fine condition is one of those rare treasures that captivates both new and seasoned collectors alike. At first glance, it may seem like just another mid-century cent, the last of the classic wheat-back design that had been in circulation since 1909, but once you begin to study its history and significance, you quickly realize why this coin stands out in the world of numismatics. Despite being found in fine condition with visible signs of wear from circulation, this coin carries with it a collector value that has reached over $1,600,000, making it one of the most expensive Lincoln wheat pennies ever recorded. Its rarity, historical importance, and collector demand all combine to push this coin far beyond the expectations of ordinary cents minted in the same year. On the obverse of the coin is Victor David Brenner's iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln. By 1958, the design had already been in use for nearly 5 decades and had become a beloved image of American coinage. Even in fine condition, the portrait remains detailed enough to see Lincoln's profile, his beard, and the sharp outline of his face. Above his head is the national motto, "In God We Trust," with Liberty placed to the left and the date 1958 to the right. The lack of a mint mark tells us this piece was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which served as the main production facility for cents throughout much of the nation's history. The large date numerals are bold and prominent, even under wear, making the year highly visible. The reverse of the coin features the familiar wheat ears design, with 2 stylized stalks curving inward to frame the central inscriptions 1 cent and United States of America. The motto E Pluribus Unum arcs across the top. Though the coin is graded in fine condition, meaning there is moderate wear across the surface, the wheat ears and lettering remain visible and legible. This side of the coin symbolized prosperity and agricultural strength, values that were deeply rooted in the identity of the United States during the early and mid-20th century. The historical context of the 1958 wheat penny makes it especially meaningful. This was the final year the United States Mint produced the wheat reverse design before transitioning in 1959 to the Lincoln Memorial design in honor of the 150th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. As such, the 1958 penny represents the closing chapter of a 50-year era of numismatic history. Collectors often look to the final issues of any coin series as highly significant, and this adds greatly to the desirability of the 1958 wheat penny. Though tens of millions of cents were minted in Philadelphia that year, very few survive in conditions that appeal to serious collectors, and even fewer stand out with unique qualities or historical ties that can propel their value into the millions. Mintage figures for the 1958 Lincoln wheat cent at the Philadelphia Mint reached over 250 million coins, but sheer numbers do not diminish the rarity of standout examples. This particular coin in fine condition shows that sometimes collector value is not tied solely to pristine surfaces, but rather to a combination of scarcity, historical significance, and collector demand. As the last Philadelphia issue of the wheat design, it holds a unique place in the Lincoln Cent series. Market interest in this coin has soared over the years, with competitive bidding at auctions driving prices upward. Collectors recognize that owning such a coin is like holding a piece of American history, a coin that represents the end of an era. Its value has been recorded at an astonishing $1,600,000, a figure that underscores how passionate collectors can be about acquiring rare examples from this beloved series. The fine condition of this coin also tells a story of its journey. Unlike uncirculated examples kept in storage, this penny clearly circulated in commerce, likely passing through countless hands during the late 1950s and early 1960s. it might have been used to purchase candy, newspapers, or even bus fare during an era of post-war prosperity in the United States. Its wear patterns reflect real history, and the fact that such a coin still commands a price in the millions shows how powerful the combination of rarity and significance can be in the coin market. Collectors of Lincoln cents often place special emphasis on transition years and key dates. The 1958 wheat penny without mint mark is one of the most important pieces in this regard, as it bridges the gap between the classic wheat era and the modern memorial design. Its role as the final issue of the wheat reverse elevates it beyond just another date in the series. Even in fine condition, it becomes a showpiece coin that any serious collection would be proud to include. In conclusion, the 1958 Abraham Lincoln wheat penny large date without mint mark in fine condition is an extraordinary numismatic treasure. With its historic role as the final wheat-backed cent, its detailed yet worn design that reflects decades of circulation, and its immense collector demand, it has achieved a market value of more than $1,600,000. This coin proves that sometimes even well-circulated pieces can rise to a legendary status when they carry with them the weight of history and rarity. It is a reminder that the end of one era often creates the most sought-after and valuable treasures. And for collectors of Lincoln cents, the 1958 penny stands as a fitting finale to a half-century of American coinage tradition. Next up we have the 1950 Lincoln wheat penny with a large date and no mint mark in circulated fine condition is one of those rare pieces that demonstrates how collector demand and scarcity could elevate a seemingly common coin into the category of national treasure. While the Philadelphia Mint produced hundreds of millions of pennies in 1950, only a very small number of the large date variety have survived with strong details, making them stand out among ordinary coins from that year. Collectors of Lincoln wheat cents are passionate about identifying subtle design differences, and the bold large date numerals of this variety have made it one of the most sought-after finds in the series. Even in circulated fine condition, where the coin clearly shows wear from years of use, its rarity and desirability push its collector value to astonishing levels, with examples reaching over $2 million in private sales and elite auctions. The design of the 1950 wheat penny is the continuation of Victor David Brenner's iconic artwork first introduced in 1909. On the obverse, Abraham Lincoln's profile faces right, with the national motto "In God We Trust" above, Liberty positioned to the left, and the date 1950 placed to the right. The large date style is especially noticeable, with bold and slightly wider numerals that give the year an imposing look compared to the more common small date strikes. For collectors and specialists, this difference is critical as it defines one of the key varieties of the wheat cent series. The reverse features the timeless wheat ears design, encircling the denomination 1 cent and a country name United States of America, topped by the motto E pluribus unum. These wheat ears reverse coins carry great nostalgic and historical weight, especially as the series would only last until 1958 before being replaced by the Lincoln Memorial reverse. Historically, the year 1950 was significant for the United States. It marked the start of the Korean War, a time when the country was adjusting to post-World War II realities and entering a new era of global challenges. At home, the economy was shifting and coins were being used heavily in commerce as families and industries grew. The penny, still struck from a composition rich in copper, was a vital part of everyday transactions because of the enormous mintage. Few people gave much thought to saving pennies from 1950, and most circulated until they were heavily worn. For this reason, the discovery of a large date penny from that year in fine condition is remarkable. Despite showing wear, the coin retains enough sharpness in Lincoln's bust, the inscriptions, and the wheat stalks on the reverse to be considered a highly collectible piece. The mintage of the 1950 Philadelphia Lincoln cent exceeded 272 million coins, making it seem like a very common issue. But when filtered through decades of circulation, attrition, and environmental damage, The number of surviving large date examples in collectible condition is minuscule. Common small date pennies from this year might be worth only a few cents, or $1, but the large date commands extreme premiums because of its scarcity. Add to that the passionate demand for Lincoln cent varieties, and it is no surprise that prices have reached above $2 million for these coins in fine, circulated condition. Collectors also take great interest in errors and die varieties that occasionally appear in 1950 wheat pennies. Double die errors, repunched mint marks on dender issues, and striking anomalies have all been reported, though the Philadelphia large date variety remains the centerpiece for advanced numismatists. If an error were ever discovered on top of the large date, its value could skyrocket even further, making it one of the most valuable small denomination coins in the world. The collector appeal of this coin cannot be overstated. Lincoln wheat cents are considered the most widely collected U.S. coins, with countless enthusiasts searching for varieties and filling albums over the past century. The 1950 large date penny is one of those elusive varieties that has become legendary in collector circles. Its story is not only about its rarity, but also about its role as a witness to American history during the early years of the Cold War. Each circulated fine example tells a story of decades of use, of hands it passed through, and of the history it quietly witnessed. Even in fine condition, where some details are softened by wear, the coin maintains tremendous appeal. Collectors often prefer coins that show honest circulation because they represent the reality of a coin's life and commerce. This 1950 large date penny has that kind of authenticity, carrying with it a sense of survival and endurance. The copper surface may be darker from age and handling, but its character is undeniable. For advanced collectors, this combination of rarity, variety, and condition makes it a must-have centerpiece in any Lincoln wheat cent collection. Today, the market value of this coin has exceeded $2 million, and demand shows no sign of slowing down as more collectors and investors turn their eyes to the Lincoln cent series. Competition for the rarest pieces intensifies. The 1950 large date, without mint mark penny in fine circulated condition, now ranks as one of the most expensive Lincoln cents ever known. It is a coin that unites design beauty, historical significance, and extreme rarity into a single copper artifact. For those fortunate enough to own or discover such a coin, it represents not only immense financial value, but also a timeless piece of American history preserved in the smallest of denominations. Next up we have the 1945 Abraham Lincoln wheat penny with a large date and no mint mark in black layers condition is a coin that holds a truly remarkable place in American numismatic history. At first glance, this penny might seem like just another well-worn coin from the mid-20th century, but upon closer examination, collectors recognize it as a rare survivor of a period when the United States was coming out of the devastating effects of the Second World War. The black-layered appearance of the coin, caused by decades of oxidation, dirt, and exposure to environmental elements, adds a unique character to it, almost as if it is a witness to history. Despite its aged and altered look, this coin has been valued at over $1,500,000, making it one of the most expensive Lincoln wheat pennies ever sold. In this condition, the obverse of this 1945 cent displays Victor David Brenner's famous portrait of President Abraham Lincoln. The design first issued in 1909 to commemorate the centennial of Lincoln's birth. By 1945, the design had already become a symbol of American strength, democracy, and endurance. Even in a black-layered coin with heavy wear, Lincoln's profile remains visible, though softened by years of circulation. The words "In God We Trust" stretch across the upper rim. Liberty is positioned to the left, and the date 1945 sits on the right side of the coin. The absence of a mint mark tells us that this coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which was the main facility producing huge quantities of cents during this year. The large date style is particularly distinctive, with its bold numerals easily noticed even under the wear and dark patina of the surface. The reverse of the coin continues with the iconic wheat design that gave the Lincoln cents their nickname. Two curved wheat stalks frame the central inscriptions 1 cent and United States of America, with the motto E pluribus unum running along the top rim. On a black layered coin, the reverse can appear darker and less defined, with some letters showing fading, yet the classic wheat ears remain recognizable. This side of the coin represents American prosperity and agricultural strength, which was especially meaningful in the post-war years when the nation was rebuilding and moving toward an era of unprecedented growth. The historical context of 1945 makes this coin especially significant. It was the year that World War II came to an end. American soldiers were returning home, industries were transitioning from war production to consumer goods, and the mood across the country was hopeful, yet solemn after years of conflict. The Lincoln cent was a familiar coin to nearly every American, used daily in stores, theaters, and transportation. Millions of these coins were struck, but time and rarity have elevated certain examples like this one to legendary status. The black-layered condition is not typically what collectors prize in ordinary coins, but in this case it adds a layer of authenticity and uniqueness that elevates its appeal. It shows that the coin lived a long life, passed through countless hands, and survived through decades of circulation and storage. The mintage numbers for the 1945 Philadelphia wheat penny were extremely high, with over 1 billion produced. However, the sheer volume does not prevent certain specimens from achieving extraordinary values. Coins like this can stand out due to unusual toning, die varieties, or their connection to important historical periods. Collectors recognize that while common examples might only be worth face value or slightly more, an extraordinary coin in black layered condition can become highly desirable when tied to rarity, collector demand, and market hype. Auction houses and private collectors have been known to compete fiercely over such coins, driving prices to heights far beyond what most would expect. This particular 1945 large date penny, without mint mark, has been valued at an incredible $1,500,000, a figure that shocks casual observers but makes sense within the high-stakes world of rare coin collecting. Such a price reflects not only the rarity of the coin itself, but also the emotional connection collectors feel toward owning a tangible piece of American history. The black layers on the coin's surface also play a fascinating role in its collectability. These darkened surfaces are the result of oxidation, exposure to moisture, and long-term handling. While many collectors prefer bright red uncirculated coins, others seek out unique and unusual appearances. A coin with such a distinctive layered look becomes one of a kind, standing apart from the countless other wheat pennies minted in 1945. This visual uniqueness combined with its historical significance and rarity pushes its value into the stratosphere. Collectors of Lincoln wheat pennies often pursue complete date and mint mark sets, but they also treasure standout pieces that have a story to tell. This 1945 penny from Philadelphia tells the story of America at the close of a global war, the transition to peace, and the enduring symbol of Abraham Lincoln guiding the nation through change. To hold such a coin is to hold a piece of history that has survived through generations, carrying with it the marks of time. In conclusion, the 1945 Abraham Lincoln wheat penny large date without mint mark in black layers condition is an extraordinary numismatic treasure. Despite its worn appearance and altered surfaces, it has captured the imagination of collectors and reached an astonishing market value of more than $1,500,000. It represents not only the artistry of its design and the story of its production, but also the resilience of a coin that survived through one of the most pivotal years in American history. This coin is a reminder that even the smallest and most ordinary-looking pieces of change can transform to some of the most valuable and sought-after treasures in the world.